In a nationalist area, a masked gang hijacked this van before setting it on fire.
Seconds later, it was set alight. And burning vehicles blocked other roads around the cathedral city. And in Belfast, there was also trouble in the Short Strand area, where a van was hijacked and destroyed.
Fury as Londonderry is rocked by some of the worst rioting and violence in over 15 years. For the city's Bogside district, often a focal point in Ulster's troubled history, the bad times are back. Rioting began in the early hours as youths hijacked vehicles and put them to the torch. Young Catholic men, some wearing balaclavas to disguise their faces, rampaged through Londonderry's newly built shopping precinct. A direct challenge for the RUC to move in. When plastic bullets didn't disperse the mob, RUC armoured cars repeatedly charged at them. If proof was needed, nationalist anger is seen here at boiling point over a police decision to allow loyalist marches through Catholic communities.
Well, the riot has now been going on for over an hour. The RUC can't repel the mob, and the British Army have now been brought in, but they're coming under fire too.
Members of the Fusiliers Regiment supported police as the rioting turned into the most serious scene in Londonderry since the early 1980s. There were serious injuries on both sides. This Catholic man was denied urgent medical treatment because an ambulance couldn't get into the riot zone. As a bewildered community tries to understand what happened, and as politicians and local leaders attempt to answer the questions why, Londonderry is in a state of shock today. Damage to property runs into millions of pounds, but the harm these riots will do to what's left of Ulster's tattered peace process may be incalculable. John Cookson, Sky News, Londonderry.
On the streets of Northern Ireland, many say the clock has been turned back 20 years. Here in the nationalist New Lodge Road area, they blame the troubles squarely on Prime Minister John Major. The tension shows no sign of easing, with the streets littered with burnt-out vehicles and shops still burning. They're bracing themselves for more trouble.
That was expected. See, what chance have we got here, the Catholic people? It's ridiculous here, the way we're being treated. It's second-class citizens always was and always will be.
That's my grandchild. He's only staying with the minute. He's home from Scotland. But I'm afraid he'll have to go back to Scotland because I wouldn't like to do it. So like us for years, we will be second-class citizens.
The emergency services have been so stretched that the clean-up operation hasn't even started in many parts of Northern Ireland. In financial terms, the extent of the damage is impossible to assess, but it's likely to run into many millions of pounds in Belfast alone. Earlier, a gun battle erupted at the new Barnsley RUC station in West Belfast. The station was sprayed with bullets. Police officers returned fire. There were so many incidents that police lost track. David Crabtree, Sky News, Belfast.
Putting the police and rioters in Derry developed into a pitched battle. The pitch was Little James Street, where Dermot McShane was fatally injured during trouble the previous night. The confrontation there continued until dawn. Petrol bombs were hurled towards the security forces. They replied with hundreds of plastic bullets. Those tactics have criticism.
Certainly the accounts which we would have are that members of the security forces have indeed overstepped the mark and have well overstepped it.
The rioters too have been strongly condemned. The strongest words from those whose businesses were destroyed in fires started during the trouble.
People who've done this here, they've no morals, they just don't care.
And the majority of people here hope the nights of trouble will end soon. Chris Capper, Newsline, Derry.
Minister John Major, what responsibility the government should take for the march going ahead, and what the consequences are for the peace process. First, though, Peter Taylor, who has reported many times from Northern Ireland for Panorama. He was in Drumcree last week and has the story of how this fateful march came to take place.
What we're dealing with here is a very strong element of bigotry within sections of nationalist opinion.
I was shocked, dismayed. I thought it was a disastrous decision. I've said so, I still believe so.
If the two sides of this community can't get on, don't look to us for a magic wand.
Drumcree, the name of a quiet country church on the outskirts of Portadown, has become a legend in Protestant history and a political watershed in the third decade of the Troubles. It's difficult to imagine how a peaceful setting such as this became the backdrop for the hatred and violence that erupted this week and brought the peace process close to collapse. And all because Orangemen demanded the right to march through the heart of a Catholic estate a mile down the road. The spark for this week's conflagration was ignited at the end of the same march down the Gavahi Road last year. The MPs David Trimble and Ian Paisley were triumphant when it was over. There were meant to be no such displays, the condition on which the residents had agreed to let them march through. The embers of resentment burned for a year.
One of the issues that really affected them was their anticipation of the triumphalism, their reaction to it, as they saw it, of Dr. Paisley and Mr. Trimble at the end of the 1995 procession.
Doing what?
Well, it was the issue that they had gone to the front of the march, held hands together, and appeared to be adopting a triumphalist stance. This was a burning issue in the negotiators that spoke to me on that occasion. They were also incensed that Mr. Trimble and the Orange Order in general had refused to consult with them and had refused to answer their letters.
It's been obvious for quite some time that Sinn Féin IRA had focused on that march as a means of causing trouble. They failed to do so last year, and they intended to try again this year. They then used this alleged triumphalism as a means of whipping up feeling.
The current crisis at Drumcree began last Sunday after the Chief Constable announced he would not let the parade through. Orange men met policemen and feelings ran high. Sir Hugh had met the Northern Ireland Secretary Sir Patrick Mayhew in London 3 days earlier. What did you tell Sir Patrick Mayhew in the week before the march about the situation with regard to
Sir Patrick asked me about the march, and we do have these regular meetings, and I told him of the implications.
What did he say to you?
He said it's a matter for you. I told him that either decision could potentially lead to disorder, but that I had no doubt the correct decision was to stop the march going down the Gavahi Road. Sir Patrick gave no hint, no nod or wink, and no view in respect of either option. He simply wanted to know, as he's entitled to do so, the implications for the province as a whole.
But to loyalists, the issue was not simply about marching down a road. It was a matter of survival, as if their whole lives, culture and future were at stake. Their political leaders hardly needed to encourage them. Drumcree was heralded as Ulster's last stand. Passions were inflamed as the marching day drew nigh.
General issue is the progressive loss of confidence within the Ulster British community in the intentions and objects of the government. And the Ulster British community look back at the last couple of years as being a period of constant concession and surrender and retreat by the government in its dealings with militant nationalism. And they saw, furthermore, after the ending of the IRA ceasefire on the 9th of February, they saw those concessions continue. Now, that's their general view. That's the general problem, and that problem has created had created a mood of considerable anxiety, and also a feeling that enough was enough.
The Chief Constable's decision to stop the march led to an orgy of loyalist violence not seen for over a decade. Catholics were burned out of their houses. Orangemen fanned the flames. They'd made no effort to challenge the Chief Constable's decision legally through the courts.
The Orangemen and others talk constantly of being part of the United Kingdom, fighting for the United Kingdom. If that is so, then it's their duty to fall into line with the general stance of complying with the rule of law that pertains throughout the rest of Great Britain.
By Monday, the drama at Drumcree began to unfurl, with the local MP centre stage. Monday saw murder. The body of a Catholic taxi driver, Michael McGoldrick, was found just outside Portadown. He'd been shot through the head. Most feared the spectre of sectarian killing, but no organisation claimed responsibility. Fear of reprisal from the other side was intense.
As I bury my son, both of you bury your pride. I don't want any mother or father going through what my wife and I have went through today. I've watched my daughter-in-law, I've watched my grandchild go through hell. Don't do it. Please stop this. Bury your pride with my boy. To those that done this, I and my family forgive you.